My name is Kim, and it is such an honor to be able to be up here today, to be able to present part 2 of our Unhindered series. Now, our series has this tagline that says, "Nothing holding you back." And I don't know if you've ever been around kids, if you have kids, or if you've seen someone with kids, but this is what I know. Nothing holds them back. Their energy, their tenacity, it's so contagious at times. Nothing holds them back when you tell them that their T-ball team has just won. Nothing holds them back when they see that they've leveled up in their favorite video game. Nothing holds them back when you tell them they get to stay up for an extra hour for more screen time. Nothing holds them back in the excitement when they see a grandparent that they haven't seen for a while. Or when you tell them, hey, we're going on vacation to one of their favorite places. Nothing holds them back. Kids have a ability to be unhindered. And that's why I absolutely love, part of my job is being able to hang out in our Kids Rock environments throughout our campuses. Not only do I love what our program is all about, what I love is watching kids learn how to be unhindered in an environment that is age appropriate and geared just towards them. In fact, in Kids Rock, we have multiple kids' truths. They're core truths that we want them to understand as they go through our program from birth through 5th grade. In our preschool program, we have these 3 core truths that we want them to know. That God made them, that God loves them, and also that Jesus wants to be their forever friend. And then when they get up into elementary age, we want them to know that they need to know how to make wise choices, to use their head. We also want them to be able to grow in community and build strong relationships. We also thrive on making sure that our age-appropriate messages allow them to develop a deeper faith as they see that nothing can hold these kids back from a relationship with God. They can be world changers. And I often think, how many times do we as adults think about those words and think, how would our stories have changed? How would your story have changed if you had been raised in an environment where those core biblical truths were shared with you? How would you be different if your parents or their grandparents or their grandparents had been raised in an environment where they developed these core truths of saying nothing can hold you back when God is the center of your story? We're going to continue in our story today from the book of Joshua. And in part 1, we talked about how Joshua had taken over Moses. And the Israelites, remember, they've been wandering for a while. They're trying to get to the promised land. And finally, they feel like they're getting so close. And Joshua is so excited. He's so excited that he has a mission that he's planned. And so this is where our story starts in Joshua chapter 2. Verse 1. If you have your Bible, go ahead and grab it or grab your phone. We'd love for you to follow along. In Joshua chapter 2, verse 1, then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. Now, this is a secret mission, which means it's kind of like on the down low. Let's keep it quiet. As well as, it's one of these missions, it's kind of like just a secret recon mission. Just go look, scope out what's going on, and then come back and tell me. But let's not make this public. Because we don't want to repeat history. Because the last time some spies went out, it wasn't very good, and it didn't end well. And that's another whole message. But they said, let's keep it secret, let's go do a recon mission, and let's find out what's happening everywhere, especially Jericho. Why Jericho? Because Jericho was going to keep them from the promised land, their destination, where they had waited and wandered to be, where they wanted to go so bad. And they're sitting there, and Joseph's saying to them, look into Jericho, because guess what? It's a pretty rough place. Jericho was a pagan community that didn't believe in the one true God, but believed in many gods. And they definitely weren't fans of the Israelites. Our story continues. So they went and entered into the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. Some of you are already thinking, oh my word, she just said prostitute. The reality is the Bible has story after story that is blockbuster epic. Because remember, it's life, it's people, they're messy. This prostitute named Rahab, think about it. This young woman would not have said as a child, I want to grow up and own a brothel. I want to be a prostitute. Rahab's parents didn't sit and go, oh, these are the dreams I have for my kid. If you're a parent, you know that you dream about what you want for your kids. No one's sitting there thinking, this is what I want. I want her to own a brothel. Some translations call it an inn or a house. But the reality is she was a prostitute. And Rahab was someone who would have known all the stories from the town. It would have been where people would have went and shared stories and shared about what was happening in their own travels and sharing about what was happening in the town. It was probably like the water cooler at some of your offices. Or to make it even more modern, the Facebook of today. So here's what Rahab does. The story goes on and says, the king of Jericho was told, look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So much for secret recon mission. The king of Jericho knows. And guess what we know? When a king knows something, the king wants to get to the bottom of it because all of a sudden somebody is coming to spy on their land and it's not going to happen on his watch. So he says, someone go and figure this out. So the king of Jericho sent his message to Rahab. Bring out the men. Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house because they have come to spy out the whole land. And at this moment, Rahab knows. Rahab, the pagan prostitute, knows. The king does not get told no. You tell the king the truth. Because Rahab would have also known about the simplicity of the ancient Near Eastern law. Maybe when you were in school, you studied the Hammurabi Code or the law. It's what I like to call the law and order of today. A lot of those rules, those laws have been brought into our justice system even today. And so she would have known these. And in this rule, this law was very, very, very important, and it was followed. No questions asked. And this was the rule. If felons are banded together in an alewife, a prostitute's home, then she has not held them to the palace, that the alewife's prostitute shall be put to death. So at this moment right now, Rahab knows, I either get the choice to tell the truth to the king, or I can commit treason. And if I commit treason, this is what I know. I know there are no second chances. I know that there is no way I can give them an excuse that says, hey, I was just really scared. I didn't know what to do. She also knows there's not a chance that she's going to get a trial. What she knows at that moment, Rahab knows, I can either tell the truth, I can commit treason. And if I commit treason, I know what that outcome is. But this is what I love about the story of our pagan prostitute Rahab. God was already moving in Rahab's heart, already to do the right thing, even though everything in Rahab's brain said, if you do this, it can lead to your death. No excuses, no second chances, no trials. It's death, it's treason. And Rahab still stood there and said, I don't know where they are. Why? Because God was working in the heart of Rahab. So maybe, just maybe, that's why those spies entered Rahab's house. Not only because it would have been easy access in and out because it was by the city wall, but maybe, just maybe, it was because God had a plan. The story continues in Joshua verse 4. But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. It would have been custom that they would have opened the gate at a certain time and they would have shut it. No one would have been in or out. The gate was shut. It's like locking your door at night, right? No one's coming back in. No one's going back out. And that's what's happening at this moment. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. I imagine in my mind that Rahab said this with such great excitement, like, go after them quickly. You can catch them. And you may catch up with them. Go get them. Go, go, go. When you're playing tag with your kids and you're like, come get me. Come get me. That's what I imagine Rahab doing right there, going, all right, go get them. God was moving in her heart so much that Rahab did this. She had already taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she had laid out on the roof. The stalks of flax are important in this moment because it's what Rahab would have had on her roof that they would have used to make linen. And at that point, what they're doing is they're trying to get the flax turned into linen so they would have been laying still in stagnant water. Now, in case you don't know, stagnant water doesn't smell good. So the reality is these men, these spies, are hiding underneath this stinky, yucky, messy, smelling place where no one would have wanted to be. Kind of makes me think how some of us would have treated someone like Rahab, a prostitute who didn't think, look, and act like us. We didn't want to be around her. She's stinky, she's gross, she's messy. But God had a different plan for Rahab. So they're hiding underneath these stalks of flax. And the story continues. So the men sent out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut, which means they would have reopened the gate so the soldiers could have gone out, which they normally didn't do. But this tells you how important this was to them. The king of Jericho wanted these men found, and found fast. They would make examples of them. So the story continues. Before the spies laid down for the night, remember they're already laying down, so the reality is this is translated as before they would have gone to sleep. Before they would have gone to sleep, she went up on the roof and she said to them, I know. Let me say that again. I know that the Lord has given you this land. I know. Do you ever have those conversations with someone where you're like, I know I'm right? Right? We speak with such boldness. We speak with such steadfast excitement, right? Like, I know I'm right. So at this moment, Rahab is saying, I know that the Lord has given you this land. Remember, guys, Rahab is already having a heart change because God is speaking to her. And this is what we know. She has a strong belief in her statement. She doesn't say, I think. She doesn't say, maybe. She doesn't say, well, if you guys get this right, you might win. No, she says, I know. I already know that the Lord is going to give you this land. And then she continues and she says to them, so that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you, melting in fear, frozen in fear, paralyzed in fear. These brave warriors in Jericho, they're scared. I imagine that scene from The Wizard of Oz. Remember when the witch is like, I'm melting. I just see these soldiers just melting in fear. When they hear these stories over and over and over about a God who parts the seas, about a God who destroys kingdoms, when they don't follow his word. And then Rahab says, We have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt. Remember the story she hears. She continues, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. You took them out from the oldest to the youngest. You destroyed these, and we do not want that to happen in Jericho. We are so scared. She continues and says, when we heard of this, our hearts melted in fear. Remember, melted in fear, paralyzed in fear. Our hearts are paralyzed in fear, and everyone's courage failed. Their courage is gone. These brave warriors that the Israelites are so scared of. Rahab's telling these spies, just so you know, these guys are scared. They're scared. And she says, because of you, for the Lord your God, the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below. And right there, mic drop, because the pagan prostitute who some of us would turn our heads away from and say they never deserve the love of God. That pagan prostitute right there made a statement that says, man, I believe in your God. I believe in the one true God. All this past that I have, this life that I've lived, it hasn't been right. I haven't been following the one true God. I've been following a bunch of gods, and I need to follow the one true God. And at this, we know that she's saying, I believe. I believe, and I believe and know. So then the story continues with this. Now then, please. Now we hear Rahab going, I believe, now I need your help. Please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family because I have shown kindness to you. You've heard this before, the kindness word. It can easily be translated into the word, and I'm going to possibly mess this up. I am not a Hebrew genius like Chris, my spouse. When I say, he said, he does this little grumble thing. I'm not going to do it. But if you've heard him say it before, you know the real meaning. And it's literally just meaning a steadfast love, a kindness of love, a love that is put into action. And she says to them, I have shown you love in action. I have hid you. I have come close to death. The king's going to kill me. But I'm willing to show you kindness and put my love into action. I'm asking you to do the same for me. And I know you'll do the same for me because you love this one true God. And I've seen what your one true God can do. And I'm watching it right now. And then the story continues. And she says, give me a sure sign you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all who belong to them. And that you will save us from death. Rahab isn't joking. She knows that the Lord is going to take over Jericho. She knows the Lord is going to win. She knows nothing is holding them back. And she says, please save us from death. She continues and says, our lives for your lives is what the men said to her. Our lives for your lives. The men assured her, you will be okay. If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us this land. Once again, they're reiterating to her, we know that we're going to win. We know the Lord is going to give us this land. And then, so she let them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived was part of the city wall. She said to them, go to the hill so the pursuers will not find you. She continues, hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way. I have to think at that moment, this isn't the first time she's had this conversation. Same as it wasn't the first time somebody banged on her door and said, Rahab, where are these people? Where is my husband? Where is my son? And at this moment, it's someone banging on the door saying, where are these spies? And right now, at this moment, she's saying, I got a plan for you. This is how you get out of here. This is where you need to go hide. And God was orchestrating in her a plan to help these spies, these men, be able to execute the plan that God had for his people. So it continues. Now the men had said to her, this oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless when we enter the land, you have this scarlet cord. This scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down. So they tell her, unless you hang this from your window, man, we're not promising you anything. You know what else this means? This means that Rahab, you're going to watch and hear bad things happen outside. So put this in your window so we know that this is a place of protection. The story continues. And unless you have brought your father and mother, your brothers, and all your family into your house, if any of them go outside your house, if any of them are not committed to the same mission that you are, guess what? Guess what, Rahab? If they go outside at your house and into the street, their blood will be on their own heads. We're not held liable for them if they don't follow through. But Rahab says, no, I'm going to bring my family in. I'm going to bring them here. In her heart, she knew she was going to do it. We will not be responsible. As for those who are in the house with you, their blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on them. Right there, there's a promise to them. There's a love in action that says, I will be here for you. I will make sure that your people in this house will be taken care of. Stay in this house. But if you tell what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you have made us swear. At that point, they tell her, hey, but just so you know, even if you hang that scarlet cord and we find out that you've said to somebody else where we are, what we're doing, what our mission is, just so you know, if that happens, this oath is broken. And then Rahab simply says this, agreed. Agreed. She replied, let it be as you say. Rahab, a pagan prostitute, someone who probably had heard multiple times that she wouldn't amount to anything, was changing the story for the Israelites. And here's what we know. The God of possible, the God of possible will do what others are going to tell you is impossible. Think with me for a minute. How many times has someone told you it's not possible? And yet God does. How many times do you think Rahab was told it's not possible, but yet she's seen that God does? And this is the cool part about Rahab. I love this part of the story. Rahab, the pagan prostitute, ends up marrying a man named Solomon. Solomon and Rahab have Boaz. Boaz, if you know any of the Old Testament stories, married Ruth, a story of great loyalty, of great trust, of great bravery. She marries Boaz, and Ruth are married. Then what happens is Boaz and Ruth have Obed. And then Obed, we know, is the father to Jesse. We know that Jesse is the father of David, which we've talked about multiple times. Remember David in our last series on relationships? David, the messy David, but yet a man after God's own heart. He's part of this lineage. And then this is the other thing that we all know. David, if you go down in the lineage, ends up with, who is he related to? Jesus. Jesus. The pagan prostitute is connected to Jesus. When you walked in today at a physical campus, you received a piece of yarn. And that piece of yarn was given to you. And I want you to put it somewhere. I want you to put it either on your wrist, put it by your laptop, put it by the phone at your office, put it by your car keys, put it somewhere where you're going to see it and you're going to remember that scarlet cord. That scarlet cord that laid out in a window that said, you know what? God's got you because the God of possible can do what others tell you is impossible. And then the other thing is simply this, that God isn't done with you. despite your past. Some of you are sitting out there and you think that your past has made you to where you can't be where you want to be. And I'm telling you right now, that is the enemy filling your head with a load of nonsense. Because you can do what God has destined you to do. Because guess what? Our God simply says, I'm not done with you despite your past. And I'm not done with you despite your future. Rahab is the perfect example of how God is saying to you, I'm not done. And then we know this. We know that too many times we continue to give the enemy the courage of and control over what God has for us. That God has already released us, and we keep allowing the enemy to get in there and make us think that we go back to the days of being the pagan prostitute, the days where our sin was greater than our blessings. We start feeling like we just don't have what it takes, and the enemy loves it. So my prayer for you today is that you allow God to remind you that He has great things in store for you, just like Rahab. And when you have the courage to walk into situation unhindered with nothing holding you back, you can know that courage is doing the right thing. Knowing that if God is for you, who can be against you? Get rid of those kings of Jericho. Get rid of those people telling you that you're not good enough. Get rid of those family members in your head that keep telling you that you're not going to make it. Start keeping your focus on God. I'm going to pray in just a minute, and then also the band is going to come out, and they're going to sing this song. And it's a song that just has resonated within my own soul. It's resonated in my own soul because in 2022, I said, I'm going to make this my new life verse. And it's simply this, from 1 Thessalonians 5:24. I actually keep it on my screen so I can see it every single day. The one who calls you is faithful, and He will do it. God is calling you. Let go of whatever is holding you back. Walk into your week with nothing holding you back and being unhindered. Let me pray with you. Dear God, I just thank you so much. I thank you so much that you take our mess, you take our pain, you take our hurt, you take our screw-ups, you take our habits, and you make us new. God, you love us despite what we've done. You want to see us grow, and God, I ask right now that every single person that's hearing this message just takes a moment and reflects and figures out what they need to do to have a moment like Rahab to where they can say, God, I believe in you. I believe in what you can do for me. I believe in what you can do through me. God, I ask for abundant blessing on each and every person listening today. God, I just ask for your grace, your compassion, your mercy. And Lord, continue to remind us that you are the God of possible. In Jesus' name, amen.